Hello and welcome. Welcome everyone to the inaugural Behaviour Science book chat with me, Louise Ward, Prakash Sharma and Tony Vara. Created just a few weeks ago, we now have over 500 members and 100 plus more at last count waiting to join. Born from a LinkedIn post of Nudgestruck speakers books, the three things that link us all together are behaviour science, the Nudgestruck 2020 Festival, and advertising. If you don't have an interest in at least two of these, you've clicked the wrong Zoom link. We all love stories, and the story of this group is an unlikely one. Created 3 weeks ago, it was Prakash who posed the question, how would we make this group function, how to choose the book, and how often to meet? It was Tony who replied, suggesting that we read Rory Sutherland's book Alchemy, and just 1 week ago, Prakash posted the book choice to the group and I offered to host. There was early interest from Piyush Krishna and Animesh Sharma, and with 5 people on board and already 41 members, we felt we had a club. Well, 5 days ago, the numbers had risen from 41 to 110. I emailed PR in Ogilvy to let them know that they might be interested that post Nudgestruck, we'd created a book club and we were reading Alchemy. Not really expecting anything to come of it, I noticed a reply signing in the next morning. Not only had Ogilvy PR acknowledged the email, but Rory was in on the chat and had offered to record a short video. To say we were excited was a slight understatement. So my own story of how I'm here talking to you today is that I grew up in an advertising house. With my dad working as an account director, we lived by the brands of whatever his current campaign was. As a child, my superhero was an actor called Victor Spinetti, who was the mad Jaffa cake eater. And we had boxes of McVitie's chocolate digestives under stairs. We drove a Volvo car. We went to Coral Leisure Group sports events. And we travelled by DFDS ferry to Sweden. The big event was when the new ad came up on telly. But back to today and the chain reaction of events that has brought the three of us together and ultimately you here with us. A comment in a Nudgestruck chat box. The initiative of Prakash to start the group and making me the page admin. And we've been overwhelmed by the friendly response and the enthusiasm of you, members. The first book we're going to chat about today is Alchemy by Rory Sutherland. We only have 40 minutes, so if we have a few minutes at the end, we can take questions from the chat at the side, which I encourage you to use to say hello to your fellow attendees. Other chat about the book can carry on in the post we put up with the recording of the event. So over to you, Prakash.
Thank you, Louise. Good afternoon, good morning, good day, everyone. Thank you all for joining in. And I can see some of the faces already. I can see Jan, I can see Harmony, I can see Tim Clemens out there. And then I have a lot more people whose videos are off. Please, guys, feel free to put your videos on. Technology is fantastic. Let's see each other's faces, let's see each other smiling or frowning. Preferably smiling, right? So this is going to be good. Let's keep our mics on mute though, because there are a lot of feedback which happens. Someone walks in. I know my cat has given me a lot of trouble. My daughter too, time to time. Okay. There is no structure or format out here, okay? It's just all of us sitting down, trying to talk about a book. And the fantastic thing is, Rory knew about it. And he dropped in a note. He has prepared a small video. Now it's quite possible many of us out here have not read the book. That's okay. Yeah. It's also possible many of us out here have not seen the video which he prepared, right? The good thing about the book itself is it's very simple. We'll talk about it, me and Tony, and that should give you a small idea what the book is about. And as for Rory's video, he says he's amazed, not in this accent. It's a British accent, right? So he's speaking like Rory would. He's amazed that people came together. He's happy about it. And after speaking about things for some time, he left us with two questions. And I want to bring up those two questions right now. The first question that he put up, and he's putting it to actually all of us, right? So, Ola, Harmony, Tim, Jan, Alexi, Andy, Animesh, Ankur, everyone out here. These are questions straight up from Rory to all of us. The first question he says is, this pandemic has forced us to change our behaviors. Now, behaviors are a constant, right? They don't really change much. So he is asking us to wonder, which of this behavior change are long lasting? You can see a long lasting impact, maybe a second or a third order impact down the line. And which of them are going to revert back to the original behavior? Okay, that's the first thing he's asking us to think about. The second thing he asked us to think about is, and it's really interesting because he mentions it in his book. I think it came around 2 years back. And in his book, he's saying, it beats me why people in the knowledge industry have to go to office. We have the means, we have the technology. Why don't we work from home? I could be in Boise, Idaho. I could be in Thailand. I could be in Ireland. I could be in Spain, Madrid, and I could get my work done. Why is this not happening? And cut to 2020, and this is middle of the year, and we all are getting our work done, many of us. I mean, there are something which cannot happen remote, we agree. But the knowledge worker part, it can, and it is. So Rory is asking us to think this as a second question, saying, why did it take such a long time for this to happen? And the beauty of these two questions are, we don't really need to have any idea about behavioral science or Alchemy, the book, to think about these questions. So please feel free to think about this question as me and Tony get into a freestyle chat about the book. Feel free to type in your answers because Louise here is going to, okay, the first question, I'm going to repeat the questions again. But Louise here is going to make a note of the answers, the responses, and we're going to collate it together and we're going to send it to Rory because he asked for it, right? He also has shared his Twitter and feed. I think Twitter, he says you can reach out to me with questions out there. So let's do that. So I'm going to repeat the question. The first one is, which of the behavior changes are long lasting? And which of them are going to revert back to the way things were, right? Number one. The second question is, why did it take us such a long time to realize all of this could be done sitting in a house or any location for many of us? Two questions, right? So I want to invite in Tony out here. Tony, can you hear me?
I certainly can, Prakash. And
Okay.
I'm very excited to be discussing this book because I had just read it, which is why I suggested it. And see, here's my copy right here. This is actually a Kindle, so you can't really see the book, but trust me, it's in there. And it's a wonderful book. Rory's a great writer. He just has a way with words. And if you've ever heard him speak or if you've ever read his writings, you know that. And of course, he says it in that wonderful British accent of his. But I've given a lot of thought to those two questions, Prakash, because one of the things that he talks about is, if you want everything in your kitchen to be dishwasher safe, just start putting everything in the dishwasher. And at the end of a year, everything that you have left in your kitchen will be dishwasher safe because everything else will have been destroyed in the process. And I think there's a lot. And I've been thinking a lot about that. I don't know, for some reason that just sort of stuck in my head. The filtering function is really a powerful thing, I think. And there's a lot of filters in our lives. And, we apply for a job and then we go through some sort of interviews and some filtering there. Maybe we even had to go to school before we could apply for that job. So there was a filtering function there. And then we're in a frontline position and we want to be a supervisor. There's another process or filter that we have to go through. And as you rise up the ranks, you're always going through a filter. if you want to go up in the organization. And, you know, you're always kind of looking above and saying, well, what are the people above me doing? Right. And because it also reminded me, there's a great science journalist called Will Storr. He writes some really interesting books. He says, you know, humans just want two things. They say they want to get along and they want to get ahead. And then they look around and they say, well, what are other people doing? Okay, so, well, you know, that's what I have to do to get along and to get ahead here. And I was meditating on that, about how we look to the others around us for cues. And, you know, if they're jetting off to Davos, or if they're going to this conference or that conference, and well, then that's what you want to do. So I think that has a lot to do with it as well. That you know, people are looking to each other for cues. What's going on? What are other people doing? Let's go ahead and I'll do that as well. So I don't know what your thoughts on that, Prakash, are.
Well, I'll talk about that in a moment here.
Okay.
But one quick tip to everybody who's a participant here right now. One of the best ways of interacting here is obviously use the chat box a lot. The second is because a lot of us have got our videos on. You can, I think, click on the right top button, right? When there's a strip of videos on the top, if you're not on full screen, you have a strip of videos, right? You can see around 6 faces typically, I think. But right there, there's a small grid, and you take your cursor over there, it says gallery view. You click on it, and then suddenly you have like 5 or 20 rows. So I can suddenly see almost 30 people at the same time. I can see Tim, Louise, I can see Jan, I can see Tony, Harmony, Kat, I can see Patricia, Charlene, David Badel, Evie, Ankur, Sheena, Nuala, Zaina. If I'm butchering your names by my pronunciation, apologies, okay? I can see Piyush, Ria, Andy, Ola, Shovik, Ankita, Melina, Omar, and Shuvi. And then some more, right? So do that because you get to see each other's face. And Louise has been very passionately focused on one thing. She is not looking at this to be just one more of the LinkedIn group. In fact, she is looking towards this becoming a relationship, which means at some point of time, maybe I and Patricia are going to work together. Maybe Louise and Evie are going to work together. You never know, right? So let's do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly touch about 2-3 things about this book, and we'll see where it goes, right? One of the things which strikes me is many of us, we believe that behavioral economics is something which started only with Thaler or with Kahneman and Tversky and their book, Thinking Fast and Slow. But it might come as a surprise to people who are not well versed in the history of economics itself, that the father of economics, Adam Smith, the one who wrote, I think, The Wealth of Nations. I think the second book he had was Moral Sentiments, Theory of Moral Sentiments, or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. Someone please feel free to correct me, okay, if I make a mistake out there on the chat box. And it is there that he talks about loss aversion almost, prospect theory for the first time, when he says, we feel, the pain of losing something with much more intensity than we feel the joy of winning something equivalent, right? So in a sense, right in the beginning of the economics, right, the father of economics itself, he acknowledged the psychological roots of how we take economics, decisions of economics. Psychology was also booming at that point of time as a discipline. But then as time went on, right, it just split, I think, for quite some time. And then you have, there's an entire history out there of how Herbert Simon comes in, and then you have he influencing in turn Kahneman and Tversky, and then in turn we have Thaler, and then we have got Banerjee, and I think around 5 or 6 people winning Nobel Prize by now. I mentioned this because Rory makes a very clear mention of Adam Smith's book straight up there in the beginning, saying, you know what, he told us about this, and I don't understand why we did not go down that route already. First thing. Second thing is Rory has listed down around 11 rules of alchemy in his book, and we can't really cover all of these 11 ones, but the one which I want to just talk about, which touches me most, is, he says, rule number one, it's rule number one. He says, the opposite of a good idea can be another good idea. See, the way the brain is tuned, right? We feel if something is good, if I'm trying to oppose it, that means I must be bad. My idea must be bad, right? And right on the next chapter, he talks about Coca-Cola, which is a sweet tasting drink from the US, popular everywhere in the world. And he says, if you are trying to find a competition for this, and there is one, and he talks about this disgusting tasting drink, very popular all over the world, smaller can, way more expensive, Red Bull. So from there comes the question, what exactly is alchemy? What is this alchemy is talking about in this title, right? And the way Rory goes on to define alchemy is, it is the trick to being an alchemist, and I quote either from the book, I think, yeah. The trick to being an alchemist lies not in understanding universal laws, because everyone is doing that, right? The trick to being an alchemist lies not in understanding universal laws, but in spotting the many instances where those laws do not apply. So the reason he uses the word magic, he talks about magic, not logic, correct. And I think this magic logic is a very Ogilvy thing, because I've worked with some people from Ogilvy, one of the...
I'm going to hop in there, Prakash, because that reminds me, a classical economics is all, it's equations and math and logic. And when you're dealing with math, it's just a zero-sum game, right? Somebody wins, somebody loses. But that isn't how human relations or human behavior actually occurs. We could all win, and even though I'm parting with my money and I'm getting this good from you, we could all be both winners in that equation. It's not a zero-sum game. And I think that's where the alchemy really comes in, is between that interactions between people. It actually grows. It grows the opportunities. It grows the potential. It grows the good that we all get from it. Because I think, I'm not a big fan of economics, because I think economics kind of took a turn down the dark side, because they said, well, it's all mathematics, and if we, people are little units to be plugged in, forgetting the fact that there's context in all of those interactions between people. And economics is really there to describe human behavior. It isn't there to prescribe human behavior, not to constrain it. You know what I mean?
Well, Tony, yeah, you're absolutely right. And thank you. And I also noticed, right, I typically speak really fast, okay? That's how I speak. And then when Tony speaks, right, he's very measured, very smooth with his flow. So guys, if at any point of time you are like, this guy is speaking really fast, man, it's too fast for me, then just type in like, dude, slow down. That's gonna help you a lot.
You're doing great, Prakash. Let me tell you, you get more ideas per unit in. How's that sound? Huh? That's an economics term right there. More ideas per unit of time.
Yeah, thank you. So I hope there are some trained economists out here, and please feel to write down your point of view. From what I understand at this point of time, most of the courses in economics, they only have, if you're lucky, a module of behavioral economics as one of the subjects, like a 3-credit term. I remember when I asked my professor, right, he taught us this entire demand and supply and pricing and all those curves, and everything was an equation. And then eventually you asked him saying, what about those paintings and all, man? Like, the pricier they get, the more in demand they go, and he looks at me and he gives me that smile and says, Veblen goods. And he walked off. I'm like, you can't do that. I gave you 3 months of my life trying to understand economics from you. And at the end of it, you are going away and telling me there are things where your knowledge is not going to help me anymore, right? So I can understand that discomfort that exists with economics as a subject. And let's see how things go out there. A lot of places have I think, started making courses for those. I want to quickly get back to the book because our discussions are going to probably go anywhere and everywhere. I just want to touch 2-3 things which I thought will be helpful for people who have not seen the book at all, right? So at least if there was 1-2 things you could know or remember about the book. So in this book, he talks about his alchemy, which we touched. The art of spotting where things go wrong, rules don't apply. That's alchemy. So essentially, if we can train ourselves to be this mind, you are an alchemist, which means you can make magic happen. Magic and logic, something Ogilvy keeps on talking about. Yeah. The second thing is he has a set of 11 rules that he talks about. The first one I told you about is very interesting. Then there are 2 things. One is he has a definition called psychologic, not psychology, psychologic. It's not a brand new concept, but what he has done is give a beautiful word to it, psychologic, and it talks about how do we make decisions? Like, are we fully rational? Are we fully irrational? Is it all logic? Is it all emotions? And then he does a beautiful, he drills a beautiful point down to us saying, see, the debate can go down to you have a logical way of thinking, or the use of the or, right? And I'm paraphrasing him out here. These are my interpretation. The use of the or can sometimes make you feel the other must be illogical, probably something not good, not desirable. But why are we interpreting emotions as the negative, quantity, or the negative or the minus side of logic? It doesn't have to be the bad side of it. So right. When the brain is making those decisions, and Tony, help me wherever I go wrong and off topic.
Well, I'm about to hop in here, Prakash.
Please do.
Well, it gets back to that filtering function, right? So if you use logic to solve all the problems, then all that's left over are the problems that don't yield to logic or don't yield easily to logic. The example he used is trains. You can only make them go so fast. You can only put so many trains on a track, and you can only put so many people in a train. So if that's at its limit, what can you do at that point to change the experience of a train ride to go to work? And that's where I think a lot of alchemy can be used. I know that, here, everybody, there's a famous phrase. It's interesting. It's because I use it with freeways here in the United States, right? It's like, oh, we got to add another lane to the freeway, add another lane. And it's like every time you add a lane, more people show up to use the lane, right? And then you're right back to gridlock that you had before. But the opposite of build it and they will come is tear it down and they will leave. So if you take a lane out, all of a sudden, people have to find other options like work from home and the like. So it's, you got to kind of change what you look at or how you look at it to make the experience more enjoyable for people. And, his example in trains was perhaps to have the people who sit in the center of the train so they get a seat. So they get to feel like, okay, I'm sitting down. I got the better of the deal. And then the people who have to stand now stand at the edges of the train towards the windows. And so they can look at the view and maybe have a little stand there where they can put their laptop or their cell phone or something like that. So the experience gets changed. So not only do the people, so instead of the people who sit, get the seat and the view, they just get the seat. So it's a trade-off. You can either stand, get the view, or get the seat and you get to sit down for your trip, which also kind of rolls into another thought that I had, because we were talking about, why is work from home, why has that not really caught on? And I think one of the reasons is people need a transition. It's like, I'm at home, now I get on a train, grab my coffee, and I go to work. Well, what do I do now? I roll out of bed and I roll into my office. There's no transitional, there's no liminal state there where you're between one thing and another. So I think that has a lot to do with it, because creating new rituals or new processes or new thoughts. Go ahead, Prakash.
Thank you for mentioning this. I was speaking with a couple of people recently as a part of research we were doing with consumers, and it is not easy right now in COVID times, but you make do. And it was very interesting that some of the parents, they've intuitively figured out you need a ritual. Now they are not using the word ritual, right? The beauty of behavior science and psychology is it's sometimes most of us can more or less figure out some of the ideas. At least 50% of them we can figure it out. So what they told me was they would get their kids to wake up on time, brush, take the shower, have the breakfast, then dress up in their school uniforms, and they have a particular area fixed in their house. And the 2-hour slot is fixed. Doors closed, no TV, no phones, and the parent pretends he or she is a teacher. So they have understood this. You need to cue in that environment. You need to let them go through a ritual of taking a bath, putting on the uniform, going into a zone and realizing now things have changed, right? So I remember some interesting story from I think World War I or II days when BBC radio presenters, right, in UK, they were required to wear proper suit and boot and like all decked up gentlemen, and then go on the radio. No one is seeing them, it's just their voice. Why dress up? And it's the same part of ritual, wow, fantastic. The meeting has been upgraded and now includes unlimited minutes. Perfecto, right? So we actually had a backup.
That's right. Intermittent reinforcement. That's right. Intermittent reward right there. Doesn't happen every time.
That's really nice. So I don't think we have to paste the backup meeting room out here. Let's continue out here. Guys, please keep an eye open for someone named Rory, because he is famous for quietly sneaking into meetings and just observing and not saying anything. And then it disappears. I've seen him do that at least twice. And just keep your eyes open for that. And Luis, please keep on. I can see, I would love to read these chats. Please do us the favor of collecting them down. We want to read them all. And then want to share it to Rory too. And now that we have no pressure of the time limit, I think what you're going to do is going to just keep on talking, invite people.
Yeah. Well, you may not have any pressure, Prakash, but at an hour, I'm going to have to take off.
I think 1 hour is more than enough. I'm going to keep an eye on people's faces. And the moment, okay, I want to keep an eye on Evie. I want to keep an eye on Shuvi, Melina, Shavik. Then I got David and Harmony, right? And Jan out there. The moment I start seeing the smile gone from their face, I'm like, okay, these guys are getting, I think it's time for us to shut the F up, and we will just quietly pretend like, everything was smooth and say bye-bye. We'll try to not make it an awkward, abrupt ending. You know what we will do? We're going to invite in Luis, and like, Luis, it's all yours, right?
Hi, everybody. Yeah, it's really great to see all your faces when I've been sending messages to all of you. And some of you I feel like I know very well already. I know it sounds weird. I mean, I've only spoken with Tony and Prakash 3 times now, but I think we feel like we're great buds immediately. I had a great chat on the sidebar with Melina. And Melina's put loads of comments, as have loads of you. You've been great taking part. But maybe, Melina, you'd like to just unmute yourself. Can I push you out there? And you could maybe just vocalize, a few of the things you've been talking about, Melina.
Oh, gee. Okay. Well, hi, everybody. I think I was just commenting on the different experiences of working from home and how things will potentially be shifting in. Someone was asking about construction and what that's going to do in the construction space if they're not building office spaces anymore, talking about more co-working space and that people will need more and different space at home, where I'm able to work in my office. We bought a house that had space for me, but my husband's been stuck at our dining room table and the kids are constantly bugging him. So there's not, space for him. Just a little bit about status quo and, change, how that's impacting for people, and that it was maybe difficult for businesses to make that shift, but they weren't thinking about how their customers, things are actually better for them in this shift in a lot of ways. So yeah, just chatting with everybody kind of as we go. It's been great to see everyone.
That's great, Melina. And Tim, you've made a few comments both to me in our personal chat box and in the sidebar today. Would you like to say a few words, Tim?
Yeah, hi everybody. Hi from Copenhagen. Yeah, I mean, I work with privacy, so that's why some of my comments in the chat have focused very much on privacy and working from home. And I appreciate all the feedback that people have given me about, we can use virtual backgrounds, and you can all see my cat. That is a virtual background. It's not my wall behind me. But we need to also respect that we all have that right to privacy. And be aware that some of the tools that we're using, such as Zoom, they have facilities that track your eye movements. And then, if Louise has set this up, then she'll get a report at the end around our levels of attention. Okay. And that's a common thing in all tools. So some of us will get 100%, some of us will get 90%, 80%, etc., etc. So remember, if you're working on an enterprise solution with your company, those kind of reports, and it could be you say, well, I've got nothing to hide, but well, we all have something to hide sometimes. Or if we're not feeling well, or if it's, remember this kind of technology will probably pick up on our facial expressions, our moods, how we're feeling, and how, what kind of concerns should we have there? I'm not trying to be pessimistic, but that's what I'm coming at from, that's my angle. And, well done, Louise and Prakash. I just want to say that. I think you're doing a fantastic job.
Oh, it's the magic is with the guy with the blue Yeti out there. That's Tony, right? That's his garage. He's in California. He's got a fantastic mic. It's a blue Yeti. And ever since I found about he's got a blue Yeti, I'm like, dude, let's be friends, dude. So yeah, I think the magic is all Tony and it's Louise. Thank you, Tim. If someone has read the book and has something that you want to share with all of us, just feel free to send a DM to Louise. And whenever she can slot you in, as we keep on talking, she's going to ask me and Tim to, Tony to just shut up, and then she will find a way to get you guys to speak, right? And
to just bounce off of Tim's comment as well about privacy and sort of this Orwellian, digital panopticon that we seem to be continually going down on, in the UK, has one of the greatest concentrations of CCTV in the world, I believe. I don't know about Sweden or Copenhagen, excuse me. I'm an American. I'm sorry. My geography can be a little bit off sometimes. So anyway, I'm not sure about Copenhagen, but, facial recognition technologies and all of this, I think those are all great concerns, because computers can do everything much faster than we can in a lot of ways. So, and that is going to impact us all, I believe. So that's an important concern. We also, have to use these tools and like Will Storr says, get along and get ahead. So, it's, how can we use these tools to make our life better and to have a better experience of our lives? And I think this is like Rory said in his questions, this is a grand experiment about how we can use these new technologies. I know that for myself, I've always liked going in person to events, because there's so much serendipity that occurs in the interaction between myself and the other attendees that I never thought I could get that again, online. I never thought I could get that online. And I think until that piece is kind of solved, and that is going to be really difficult to convert completely online. I think it's a combination of technology, and it's a combination of skills and ways of doing things, because I think I'm starting to learn better how to have those serendipitous interactions online, but it's not easy. It requires a different set of skills, and it requires a different set of intentions as well. And that's where, psychologic and alchemy, for me at least, comes in. What about what are your thoughts, Prakash?
See, when it comes to the whole point about privacy, right? Now, I think a lot of it also comes from which country you are from, right? So if you take up, let's say, a country on this side, let's say India, right? I'm not saying people are not bothered about privacy. That's what I'm saying. But I'm saying that in a population of, almost, I think how many are we? Almost 1 billion, I think, yeah. It might be just a couple of thousands. We hear about them because they have access to those media, they write about it, talk about it, right? But many of us not aware of it. What does it mean? They're not aware of why. I mean, when the awareness of privacy itself is not there, the larger nuanced debates are not something relevant for them. So there is that side too. Now, I don't want to dismiss the concerns. They're very, very, very important, but it's also a question of where you are as a society, I think. That's one important aspect. I know Piyush has a question at some point of time. We'll invite you, Piyush. But before we go there, quickly want to again go back to the book. This is for people who have not gone in depth through the book. Okay, so far what you have touched, and I'm going to do a revision of sorts so that you keep on remembering the common points. I tend to do that. Yeah. So he explained what he meant by alchemy, and he laid down 11 rules of alchemy. And we know one rule by now, right? I guess you guys all know it by now. I'm going to repeat it so that it kind of settles it down. He's saying the opposite of a good idea can be another good idea. And from there, he introduces this word called psychologic, which is about the way we make decisions, a blend of emotion, a blend of logic, and they don't have to be one good, one bad kind of quality. They simply are. And the way the brain works is trying to make something optimal versus trying to make it useful. So sometimes useful wins, sometimes optimal wins. And then interestingly, he throws down 4 S's. He says, why are we the way we are? And he says there are 4 S's. S as in signaling. The second is subconscious hacking. Third is a term I think made popular by Taylor or Dan Ariely, or I think it was Kahneman, satisficing, right? Mm-hmm. And then the last is, I think, the psychophysics, right? So he uses 4 S's to say, why is it that we are the way we are? And then if I had to just bring down the book to 2-3 important points, if you guys want to make a note of it, the number 1 point, and this is not a straight up summary, it is just an interpretation of one more guy out here who knows a little about the book because he read some parts of it. Yeah. So do not come back tomorrow with your guns blazing saying, dude, this is what you said. But if you have nothing with you, if you have 0 with you, you might want to take these 3-4 things, right? Number 1 is we are bad with maths, very, very bad with maths. And people who are trained in economics, people who are behavioral economics, you may want to start putting up examples of how we are bad with percentages versus absolute numbers, ratios, proportions, probability weights, so that people have no idea, they can at least understand them a little bit. So we are bad with maths, number 1. This is the reason why you're more scared of an accident in an aeroplane as opposed to a road traffic accident, which is probability wise, this is more likely. But the brain cannot process probabilities properly. We are bad with maths. Number 2, words are very powerful, and words are so powerful, even your experience, even your taste can change. Like there was an example of this. Tony, just give me 2 minutes. I'll summarize the book really fast. Then again, we'll get back to you. Yeah. Yeah. So there was this example of this, I think, biscuit or cookie, depending on the country you're from, biscuit, cookie. And they introduced this 4, I think, low-fat biscuit or something like that in their branding. And the sales fell down drastically. Now, what happened was before they had introduced the word, they'd done all kind of blind testing saying the taste is the same, right? When you do a blind testing. But when people are eating those biscuits without the blind testing, and this is the word, it's a low-fat biscuit, those words are telling their brain that the taste is not as good anymore, right? So words are really, really powerful. The third thing that it touches about is You need to concentrate on what people are feeling, not what they're saying. And this also touches back to David Ogilvy's statement itself, I think, and I paraphrase very badly. I'm going to paraphrase with something like, people, I think, rarely say what they are thinking or feeling, and they rarely do what they are, okay, I butchered the quote. Just Google it. Ogilvy think, feel, people quote, right? You'll find it. Essentially what he's saying is we do not say what we are feeling. We do not do what we are feeling, and then we don't think about it. So the data which you're getting out of people is really wonky. So you may want to pay a lot more close attention to what people are saying to you. So a simple approach, which Rory says, is focus on what they're feeling. And I think the last thing which I would probably leave from this book is context, and context matters a lot. So context is a very powerful driver. So I think one of the ways to explain this, and I made a note of it because I thought it will be really, really nice. Okay, this is a quote which says, at the federal level, I'm a libertarian. At the state level, I'm a Republican. At the town level, I'm a Democrat. In my family, I'm a socialist. And with my dog, I'm a Marxist. So we as people are all context driven all the time. There is no good, there is no bad. It's all relative. It's all depending on the context that we are. So I hope these were kind of good enough to make you curious about the book. If you're not planning to read the book, hope you remember these things. But even better, read the book. The man himself has made a video for us. He has sent us 2 questions, and I hope you have been typing your answers because Luigi has been recording them. Tony, back to you.
Back to me. So when you talk about context, I think that is one of the key concepts of the book. And I think it has a lot to do with work from home as well. It's like, how do you change the context? Because I behave a certain way at work. Okay. And then I act a different way with my wife, and I act a different way with my children, and I act a different way with my neighbors and friends. And so, the context of my behavior is very different depending on who I'm interacting with. And anybody who's ever invited all of their friends to a party are like, oh my gosh, they're all going to start talking and realize that I'm different people to different, I'm a different person to each one of them, which can be kind of horrifying. And so, that context is really, really, really important. And the signaling that we give in each one of those. So I liked your summary, Prakash. I'll leave it at that.
I'm going to hop in there now, lads. I'm going to hop in, Prakash, because we're watching the clock, and this is more like a Zumba class. We don't want to keep you all on a Sunday afternoon or whatever time of the day it is for you there. I'm seeing 45 minutes running there, and I'm very conscious that question came from, was it Piyush? Particularly said he'd like to say something. Can you hop in there quickly, Piyush, if you're still with us?
Yeah, sure. Now, just wanted to kind of give my views on the second question, because I kind of thought about it as well. The second question being, what will it be like? What will the world be like after all this is over? Will we stay like this or not? But I feel that this work from home thing will definitely stay. And I have so the reason why we haven't changed, the reason why we didn't start working from home, I believe is status quo bias. So we like being in our comfort zones, and the status quo has always been for years to go to work. So that's how it has been. But then the only way to get over status quo bias is to have a freemium model. So Evernote, you have a freemium, you have limited options, and then you use the product, and then if you like it, you subscribe for it. And then basically work from home for managers, it was this pandemic gave us a freemium of work from home. So we have this we were forced to go for work from home, and then we found out that it works. And the managers found out it works. It's cheaper. It's going well. People have work-life balance. And then when we go back, when things kind of get, normalize, we say that, oh, this freemium model worked. Well, let's subscribe to it. So that's how I see it. So that's why I see work from home kind of being a norm later on.
Thanks so much, Piyush. It's great to have an opportunity for us to speak. There's so many, there's 50 of us here. I can't quite believe it. Absolutely brilliant. I've had one more request from Charlene. I'm going to let her, if she still wants to, address the group. Charlene, would you like to say a few words? Charlene? Charlene,
yeah.
Great.
Can you hear me now? Oh, it's that awful Zoom thing, isn't it? Can you hear me? Am I on mute?
Yeah, Charlene, you can.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say really briefly how Zoom for me has massively impacted my business. Shortly after leaving my career in London, I moved down to Dorset and had a family and set up my own agency. And I massively attribute a lot of the success of the business to using Zoom, because it meant I could access London clients, new clients, and existing clients, and service them better. But also by doing video calls rather than phone calls, I was able to develop a relationship much quicker. It definitely expedited the relationship building. And there was I was living in a renovation project at the time when I very first started off, and really simply just had you know, those wardrobe like poles that you could have, and had a piece of MDF on the back of there with it, which was painted brand colours with the brand logo, which isn't what I've got now. We've upgraded a little bit, but and it massively changed the business. It really did. And I have refused in-person meetings at times because I think actually there's not a value. There is a place for it, but there's also, you know, it doesn't need to be that way. And through having children, I've even had my children strapped to me in those carriers and carried on with with conference calls. So it's absolutely enabled my business to grow, you know, through challenging times.
Thanks, Charlene. That's great. And I suppose the reality is none of us would be sitting here if it wasn't for Zoom, if it wasn't for virtual events. Nudge Doc would not have happened in the way that it happened this year. And as that is ultimately the thing that created this behemoth that it has become, we're all very grateful for all of these things. And I wasn't actually going to say anything because, you know, I'm bowing to the superior baseline knowledge of Prakash and Tony today and all of you, but I really think it's an important point to make that it has very much made the world, I think, more of a liberal and open place. I wouldn't be sitting here talking with such a great bunch of people with all of your specialities if it wasn't for this opportunity that it's given us. So I think a really great thing has come out of a few random events that happened, and if we can keep this thing going, I think it's got the potential to be a really great bunch of people who I hope can keep in contact in a personal way, so that it is not like some of those big LinkedIn groups you see that you think, God, that's so successful, they've got like 10,000 people, but they don't know each other. And I think we've got the opportunity in this to know each other. So I'm going to stop talking now and say thank you to all of you who came along today. And I'm just going to let Prakash and Tony say goodbye to all of you. And as I just popped in the note there, I'll put a post up very quickly in LinkedIn, which will be just a follow-up chat. And it'll give you all a chance to just pop your few notes in there and chat between each other. So I'll be going now.
Well, thank you, Louise. 2 or 3 things really fast as you go. First thing is, you might have seen a post from Louise on the group saying that we are capping it for now at 500. This is not being a jerk. This is not being arrogant. It is none of those. By now, you all have realized that we wanna know what is Nuala doing. Is she in her office? Is there a background? You know, we want to know, is Bab's screen, is she in her home? Is what is happening in the background out there? See the small whiteboard of sorts right out there. We really want to get to know each other. We want to know each other's name, and there is a limit to how many people you can be friends with. There's a Dunbar's number, I think, like 150 or 250 people, right? And it's not like we are collecting badges saying the group has got so many people. Oh, look at us. The goal is not at all. The goal is actually to have 20 to 50 people who can talk with each other. And all future formats are going to be this. We'll be randomly inviting anybody to talk. You will put up today is day 1. So it's just me and Tony talking. That's it. We are done. Here onwards, Louise, and she's going to invite you and say, Charlene, you are next. And you're like, oh, I have no time. Find the time, please. So she wants to be able to say that to you, which is why we cannot have 2,000 people. Hence the decision. We are not saying we'll not admit anybody anymore. For now, we're just keeping it here, in 3, 4, 5, 6 days. Hopefully when that push from the Ogilvy's post dies down and people don't say, I want to join, then we will see, how many people there should be, how do we make it a more engaging group. Yeah. So the idea is to make the group engaging. It doesn't come from the me, Louise, or Tony being arrogant. That is not at all where we are. Number one. Number two, please go ahead, type, write, engage, right? The only thing I think which Louise said we should not do is try to sell. So that obviously there are so many more groups we can sell. Let's sell over there. Behavioral economists, I think it's got some 12,000 members, a bigger platform to sell. This is a tiny group. We talk books. We talk about our observation. We talk about what we have seen. Maybe we tried a trick with our kid. Maybe we tried a trick with our parent and it worked or it failed. We just write over there, right? Most of us have access to all the research papers. So sharing links of research paper does not help us additionally. But what we are looking for is stories, right? So if I can tell you this is what happened with my team, and this is how I changed it. Now that is something you can never find anywhere else in a book or in a video, in a course, right? So something more personal or observation like that is what we're looking for. And I think that is what I was trying to tell. The book has been covered. Thank you all. Tony, all yours.
All right, so I'll hop in for the last word here. Thank you so much, Prakash and Luis. Those two are the ones that really made this happen. So, kudos to them. That's all I have to say. Yay. But my last thoughts are, let's make this into, a virtual, not trade show, but conference where the value really is the interaction between the attendees. I think that is a real key component to this is, me talking to Louise and Prakash, something emerges from that. All right. And Kat talking to Nuala, something emerges from that. And so let's keep that rolling. Let's keep that going. There's going to be 2 meetings a month. One is going to be focused on a book and the other is going to be focused on some other topic. So, let's use this as an opportunity to make something better than what has existed before. And that's my thought. Louise, you want to sign us off?
I certainly do. I've unmuted myself. So just down to the bare etiquette of saying, I really appreciate that you've all given us both your time today and your time to comment and chat with me on LinkedIn and introduce yourselves. It was going to be just a lovely thing of chatting to 20 people each day and hi, now it's your turn. And now there's 500. It's become a bit more of a monster thing to get through. But still, you've all made the effort to come along here, the 50 of you, for the very first event. Be very proud of yourselves. We really appreciate it. We are overwhelmed by the kindness and the way you've all made the effort to interact with us. And as Prakash says, I'll be hoping that each of you will now hop on, take your part and contribute to the group. You've all got something to say and we're all really interested in your stories. So I'm going to wave here now and say bye. I'm leaving the group. I'm giving you all permission to leave the group. Let's all wave to each other and say goodbye and see you very soon. Bye now.
Bye.